Coach, if you want to just go ahead and lead off and talk a little bit about, your initial thoughts on the signing class, and then to everyone in the group, use the raise hand function, and we'll take some questions after Coach's statement.
Yeah, I mean, I thought our class, we got bigger up front and we got longer in the back end, linebacker included. And I think that was one of our goals, was to become a bigger offense and bigger defense. We need to become a bigger team. The games that really got out of control for us were when we faced size. So we tried to attack that, to clean that up. So up front wise, we got a lot of guards and inside guys. We still have to address the tackle position. We signed one tackle, but we got to get more tackles in this next class, in this next 2.5 weeks. At tight end, I think we got bigger. And we wanted guys who could put their hand in the dirt and block somebody and then be a threat in vertical play action. And I think we did that. And then we also got a guy who can flex out and kind of be a hybrid wide out tight end, which I think we got that too. So I think we got kind of the best of both worlds there. Wide receiver, somebody who gets open. I think we have some size and we have some speed on the roster. So we were really just the best available there. We didn't need to fill a specific spot. So I think we just took who we felt was the best player in that role, best players in that role. D-line, obviously we got to continue to get bigger. That's one thing. Ramar is going to be a gigantic kid, gigantic guy. He's still growing into his body. But that's got to be something we continue to address, is the size. Our edge guys, very, very athletic. That was something I was very pleased with, was the athleticism we signed at edge. I think both those guys can rush the passer as freshmen in the Big 12. The ability to stop the run and play base downs will be, that's another question for them. But the ability to make an impact as freshmen on the edge, on third down sub packages, I think are there. Both crazy explosive. Linebackers, obviously we signed, one and then a couple from the portal, but we wanted to get speed and athleticism. And then we still need to sign one guy who's a little bit bigger. So I think we got that with Martell. We got that with a couple of the transfers. And then back end, I think the back end was phenomenal, how we recruited the back end. The size, the speed, the length, the work ethic of those guys, the fact that they're all showing up early. Don't be shocked to see a wave of some of these young guys play for us in the back end early.
Awesome. All right, we'll go to questions. Starting with Chris.
Yeah, Kenny, just wanted to get your thoughts about the evolution of recruiting and this first full year cycle that you have, and how has that been relative to kind of what you thought it might be like, and in what ways were you able to successful within that paradigm?
Yeah, you kind of went in and out a little bit, so I think I heard it all, but how it kind of is changing in the whole year about recruiting. Well, the rules change all the time. So before, you can't take a kid who's got a 1-for-1 transfer, who's already transferred. So we take 2 kids, Xavier and Alfred and Jake Smith, and we say, okay, they may not be able to play, but in year 2, we're going to get some superstars. Okay, well, now they're saying there's a chance that those kids do play next year. So we turned down a kid that was like that at a position, and then 2 days later we find out he could become eligible. He's already committed somewhere else, which sucks. So you always have to adapt to the game that's changing. They went from an 85 counter to an unlimited counter. So what does that mean? It means you can overtime, because it means you have to anticipate your roster dwindling after spring ball. You can't just get to 65 or 70 and then 15 high school kids come and replace. You have to have a plan to always get 85 to 95 on your roster based off who you think may leave after spring. You have to be able to project. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck under numbers. And I think that's the challenge of it right now. I think being here a year allowed us to recruit better prospects, like more talent, more size, more speed. We weren't finding the diamonds in the rough as much. Always, we were finding these guys that we had to win some battles for. And those are the guys that have the measurables. But like I tell people, recruiting, if you're a good recruiter, it's not a 1-year process. It's a 3 to 2 year process. So your best class should not be year 1. It should not be year 2. It should actually be years 3 and 4. Because if you're not talking to somebody in the 26th class right now, if you're not having him call you, you can't call him. But if you're not slowly building that relationship today, somebody is. So I think the ability of the players we're going to be able to sign are going to get better. And, we were 3-9 and we still put together a really good class. Well, another year of relationships with guys and a better year on the field. I think the standard's only going to get raised. I was talking to somebody before this call. We should be a top 2 team in recruiting, top 3 team in recruiting in this league. I don't think we did a great job. I thought we were average, and I don't know exactly where we finished up, but I think it was the top half. Like, that's the standard. Is I want to finish 1 through 3, and with guys that we evaluated that were good enough, and finish 1 through 3 every year, and we're not there yet.
Hode?
Hi, Kenny. In terms of the approach, the transfer portal versus just recruiting high school kids, would it be fair to say that the transfer portal additions have to be the plug and play, especially at positions of need? And for the most part, the high school players, which I know some of them are definitely going to be in the rotation in 2024, but those are more the foundational pieces building for the future?
I don't know, because so many young high school kids transfer. So I think you can't put a transfer kid in a bottle that all transfer kids are the same. A transfer with 4 years left is a freshman. So you have to put that kid in a different category. A transfer with 3 years left, he's kind of a freshman. He's an NFL freshman if the guy plays 3 years and leaves. So I don't think you can put, we take a priority in high school, we take a priority in the portal. I think you say we take a priority in age groups. How are we balancing our roster with ages? Some positions you can, some positions it's harder to, but I would say that's really, when you look at what we're trying to do, we don't like to take a lot of 1-for-1s out of the portal. That's not the model that I want to create. Maybe in 2 years from now, when we're a one player away from saying, if we get this guy, holy cow, and we have a strong enough culture in place, yes. Right now, maybe 2-3 guys, maybe, that have 1 year left. We're going to take guys that can help build this thing, 2 years, 3 years out. So in years 3 and 4, we're firing on all cylinders.
Michelle?
Hi, Kenny. We talked earlier about the offensive line, and obviously that was an issue this year. Do you feel like you have enough offensive linemen now? And what other positions of need do you still see addressing again?
Yeah, O-line, I think we still need some length. I think we got some big, bad, fill in the blank of the next word, dudes who are going to road rage people. But I think we need some length to tackle still. That would be the one thing, with Emmett coming back off injury and Bram coming back off injury. Max, who's going to be a superstar. I think Max is going to be an NFL guy. But you've got guys coming back off injury. We need more length. So we'll still go find ourselves a tackle that could add to that length that we need. And then from other positions, defensive line wise, with the loss of BJ, I think we still have to replace that with an older-ish guy, somebody that can come in, because our 2 freshmen don't get here till the summer. You can't count on one of them on base downs yet. So you got to get an older guy, maybe with 2-3 years left. Maybe that's the guy who has 1 year left. I don't know, to come in here and be an impact player for us at edge in the rotation. And then linebacker, you'd like to get one more guy. And then D tackle, you'd like to get one more guy. So to summarize it, I would say length to tackle and size on the D line at linebacker are the 4 spots that we're trying to fill, hopefully before spring ball starts.
So does that mean, you just mentioned Emmett, and I think we were unsure whether he was coming back or not. So he is coming back?
Yes, Emmett is coming back. My fault. I knew that like week 4. My fault. I should have probably said something.
Brad?
Hey, Kenny. When you look through this class top to bottom, regardless of position, were there any common characteristics that were kind of a through line throughout the class?
Good people that love football. That's the common characteristic. We're not going to trick somebody to come here. We're not going to try to go and put on a full court press to somebody that doesn't want to be here. We want people who want to be here that are good people. Because nowadays, signing day is just the bond between 2 people that what you told me to get you here is going to happen. That's it. It can change tomorrow. Kids get out of their NIL, their letter of intent all the time. Kids transfer after year one all the time. So if you're not genuine in this process anymore, if you're still in the mindset of we're going to recruit and then de-recruit, oh yeah, it's de-recruitment season. Yeah, it's basically your roster's just going to continue to dwindle every year. So I think good people who want to be here and that love football, that's the characteristics. And the football side of it, we wanted to get bigger and longer. And I think we addressed a good amount of those needs.
Jordan?
Morning, Kenny. In terms of Raleek, what do you see for him? How he fits into this offense? I know that he was recruited to USC as a running back and then transitioned to a wide receiver. But how do you see him kind of fitting in, and what can he bring to this offense?
Yeah, he's a running back in my mind. He is, going back in my history, he's Kenny Gainwell. That's who he reminds me of that I had with Memphis, who's now playing for the Eagles, where he's a running back that you can flex out in the slot and create matchups. I loved playing basketball on grass and trying to get running backs and tight ends matched up with players who can't cover them. We really didn't have that last year to a point all the time, just due to how people were personnelling us with our tight end position. They were treating our tight end position like a wideout. So you couldn't really gain a +1 or create a false matchup at that spot. And then our running backs were physical downhill guys who aren't wideouts, So I think getting a guy like Raleek allows us to kind of dictate a little bit to the defense and create really plus matchups when he does flex out. But he's a running back. He's 184 pounds. And like I told him, he needs to be 190. He can carry that easily. He's a ball of muscle. So I have no worry in the world about his size. His size is not an issue at all with him playing running back.
Cooper?
Morning, Coach. I know you talked about your defensive backs and kind of the corners that you got earlier on, but could you just kind of touch about, the impact that Brian Carrington made in this process? In a lot of sites, he was ranked as, one of the top recruiters in the Big 12.
Yeah, he's a stud. He's an elite relationship builder. He's a really good person, and he's elite with people. He understands people. He motivates people. I think coaching and recruiting correlate together because at the end of the day, recruiting is building trust and building relationships to get somebody to trust to come play for you. Coaching is building trust and building relationships to get somebody to go play hard for you and listen to you. So I think his same traits that make him a good recruiter are going to make him get better and better and better as a football coach. So yeah, he's a game changer for us.
Code?
Kenny, I know that there are a lot of impressive traits to this class, but I was mostly impressed with the Polynesian Pipeline that you guys were able to build. I know, and you know this too, from being an alumnus, it's something that ASU fans have wanted for a long, long time, and really sometimes dumbfounded how a lot of cold area schools are able to get so many more Polynesian players than ASU. Can you talk about those efforts, really all the way to the start of the recruiting cycle, and then materializing yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, between Coach Shago, Coach Iguano, Coach Nick, and then Coach Cooper, and then Coach Regal. I mean, at the end of the day, they're good kids. I know they're Polynesian, and that's the pipeline, and we're trying, but really, we're just trying to recruit good kids. And I think the culture we're creating of be a good person, work really hard. We don't practice on Sundays. I think all of that stuff aligns to be really attractive to that community of people. And I think when you have a guy like Coach Songa, who's so respected, and Coach Iguano, who's so respected, and Coach Nick, who's so respected, that the combination of the culture we're creating and those people kind of stamping the culture we're creating, I think it's something that we'll continue to do. And I think it's a great advantage heading into the Big 12, being the furthest school west, essentially, that doesn't have to play in Rutgers. No offense to Rutgers, but I'm just saying the flight time to all the way out there, who doesn't have to fly all the way out there for their families. It's still feasible for families to go watch their son or daughter play most games out of the year here at Arizona, and you can live in warm weather and have a direct flight to the Phoenix airport that's 6 minutes away from the campus. So all those things putting together, I think that's something that I'm fired up about, and I think it's going to continue.
Chris?
Yeah, Kenny. So How much do you anticipate newcomers impacting your two deep or your starting lineup just overall? And in what positions do you think that will have the most impact?
Mid-years, quite a bit. I think the guys who show up in January here in 2 weeks, quite a bit. D-line, I think the top four of the D-line, I think we have guys who can come in and do it right now. Linebacker core, I think two of the linebackers we got in the portal, I think both those guys are going to be come in and asked to make a difference now. I think at the corner position, they're going to be asked to come in and compete early, like early. And then obviously getting Ed back, who's a really good football player, is only going to get better. With him, I think our corner position is trending in the right direction. And then you get all those young bucks that are going to be here early and see which guy is it not too big for as a true freshman. I think we're going to know that early. I think we're going to know which true freshmen in the back end are prepared for this and which is it going to take a little bit of time to learn and grow. But with the back end, I feel pretty good about our safety position, especially not as much impact, I would say. Kamari could come in here and shake some things up and move some people around positionally, which may be able to flex Shamari to play some nickel, which would be an ideal situation with his cover school skills and physicality. But we don't know any of that yet. But I could definitely see that safety spot, depending on the freshman, depending on Kamari, depending on JoJo, kind of altering in a three-man rotation of how do we get the three best on the field. O-line wise, I expect those guys to come in and compete early. We need to get bigger, and we sign bigger dudes. Tight end wise, those guys will come in and play early. Running back wise, same thing. I think we have versatility. So I truly think all those guys that are coming in mid-year have a chance to make an early impact on the team. The guys who come in the summer, that's a little harder. Hopefully they can find a role that's secondary, maybe third down pass rush or something like that if they aren't ready for it.
Michael?
Yeah, Coach, I was obviously, special teams and punting. I know you signed Canyon. Coach got to Canyon Floyd out of Horizon. I know you talk obviously about flipping the field and everything. What do you feel? How do you feel that he fits that, and can he contribute right away?
Yeah, he can punt it really far, which is nice. And I watched his highlight, and that dude is an absolute animal. So he's one of the sneaky gets in the class. People aren't going to talk about the punter and the specialist, but at Arizona State, there's been a tradition of elite specialists. And getting a guy that I rule can be that again and can flip the field 48 yards, 46 yards at a time instead of our 34-ish, 35-ish is an absolute game changer. That's a field goal a game. Field goal a punt. So if you punt 6 times, you just change 60-something yards of field difference, which completely changed the game. So I'm fired up for him. Also being a local boy, I think that's awesome that he's going to be able to play in front of his own family. So huge get for us, and I'm fired up about it.
Michelle?
Excuse me. Can you tell me, Kenny, out of your 17 high school kids, how many of those might enroll early in January so they can play spring?
Roughly 9. So the DB position heavily. There's still a couple that are up in the air. Martell's still up in the air. Chris is still, or not Chris. Well, he's still up in the air. We don't know yet. We're getting final grades. So I don't want to talk too prematurely. I would say roughly 9, 8, give or take 1 or 2 each way, but we'll know more here after high school final grades get submitted. Every school is a little different when they get submitted, and then they got to go through the app process.
Cooper?
Coach, I saw you talk to Adam Gorney yesterday, and he talked to you about recruiting in-state kids. How do you feel you did recruiting the in-state kids this year from Arizona, and what is your plan of attack going forward to get those kids to stay in state?
Yeah, I always knew it takes 2 years. I wasn't concerned. We did everything we could. I think we sent the whole house to go see a specific prospect in state, just to show the commitment to the state, the whole team. Or the whole coaching staff. But I knew year one, you only have 1 year to build a relationship, and it's harder to do that with an in-state kid. So year 2, we've been on these guys, for almost 2 years now by the time they sign. So we would have had as even of a shake as anybody to get guys here. So I anticipate us making a few splashes with the top dudes in the state this year. That's what I hope for. That's what my expectation is. And if we don't, it's I failed when it comes to recruiting in state, and then we'll have to reevaluate our process, because I'm pouring everything I can into the state, into recruiting the state. So when you get 2 years to recruit a kid, 2 years to recruit a class, if you're not getting those guys, then there's a bigger, deeper issue of why you're not, and then you have to reevaluate that. But I fully anticipate making waves in this year's class in Arizona, being in year 2 of this cycle. So I'm actually fired up about it. It's the beginning of what I know you can do here, and there's certain kids in particular that can actually change the game, and for us, not just now but forever. They can change the game forever, and they know who they are.
Chaz.
Good morning, Kenny. So my question is, does it differ the way that you recruit a kid from high school as someone out of the transfer portal? Is it vastly different, or a lot of the pitches that you make to these guys the same?
For me, it's the same. It's just you got to get to know them faster. It's like dating versus speed dating. I mean, you have 2 weeks to get to know these guys. 2, sometimes 1. They make an early decision. Now it's dead. So anybody who goes in the portal, you may not even meet them. You may just meet them on FaceTime. That's it. And that dude's going to come play for you. So I think the key is, what I just firmly believe in is that's honesty and trying to help dudes. Like, there are kids in this year's class that were freshmen that were 5 stars that went in the portal that called me, and I helped them go somewhere else. It didn't fit what I was trying to do here, but I helped them guide their way to someplace else. It's not all about who you sign. From that perspective, it's just about helping people. And I truly believe if you help enough people and you're honest enough, you will reap what you sow, and good things will happen to you. And there was a couple of 4 stars that we were in on and we missed. I'm like, dang, we were 1 year short of a relationship with those kids, and other staffs had it, and we just couldn't beat it. And we tried everything we could. And then there were some kids that were, a top 150 kid who calls me and says, "Coach, I know it's last minute, but is ASU still an option?" And I'm like, "No, it's not, because we don't have the relationship necessary. This isn't where you want to be. You made that perfectly clear earlier in the process." And so I think for us, it's finding the kids who want to be here, recruiting them the same. Do you have to recruit them harder and faster when they're in the portal? Yes, because you don't know as much about them. But it's the same vetting process, the same type of kid, and the same vision and plan.
Julia.
Morning, Coach. Obviously, you got a lot on your plate, but just how much do you enjoy the process of recruiting and just getting some new players and new blood into your system?
Yeah, I love some of it. I don't like other parts of it. I don't like when schools promise kids fake things and you lose a kid because you're honest and another school is full of crap. I don't like that. I don't like that. I think the rules are changing. So what your plan is could constantly change by the day. I don't like those things. I love the relationships. So I absolutely love the relationships. I love building relationships. I love seeing kids mature and grow, and just throughout from being a 16-year-old to an 18-year-old. And I love that piece of it. That's awesome for me. That's what I like about it. I don't like kind of what it's become in terms of tell kids whatever it takes to get them on your campus and promise whatever you want to promise. I can't do that. I don't like that. It's not what I'm about. So I love some of it. I don't like the others.
Michael.
Yeah, Coach, to kind of piggyback off that and what you said earlier about, with the changing of conferences and out of conference games, do you feel that, building the relationships, like you said, with kids you're recruiting, if you lose out on them to a school, say at SC or UCLA, where, like you said, those out of conference games are 3,700 miles away, do you feel a lot of kids more so now are going to take that into consideration, and you might land a few more that maybe we're thinking of going there, but just don't want to travel, like I said, almost 4,000 miles to play a out of conference game?
100%. Nowadays, different schools can attract different level of quote unquote star players, right? Just because it's the nature of the profession, the nature of the beast. And we should recruit the best players in the country constantly. And if we don't get those players in high school, it's not over. Those players could be right back in the portal a year later, and whoever had a relationship with them has the best chance to get them. So now more than ever, recruiting is harder because in the past, you would identify the category of kid that you could recruit. Oh, okay. This kid has offers from Alabama and Georgia. He is from Louisiana. LSU wants him too. Are we really going to chase that ghost? Well, now you do, because that kid may end up in the portal, and all those schools may not take him in the portal, but who still kept recruiting him from the Big 12? Maybe nobody, because maybe everybody gave up. And maybe you're the only school that still has that relationship with that kid when he enters. So you have to be able to recruit more kids than ever, because their times and changes of when you could get them could be different. So recruiting is harder than it's ever been. It's more time demanding than it's ever been. It never ends. Like I'm at home right now, but these kids, the transfers until they're on campus, they could go wherever they want. There's no letter of intent that locks them into your school. It's not like high school. So it doesn't end. Like Christmas doesn't end, New Year's doesn't end, it continues. So you better be genuine, you better be real with these guys. Otherwise, you may sign them and then they may leave, and it doesn't matter to begin with.
Jordan?
Coach, what went into the recruitment of Sam, and how do you think this quarterback room is looking heading into the season?
Yeah, my exit interview with Jaden, I said, hey, I'm going to take a transfer quarterback to compete. We need competition in that room. We need more depth in that room. And he was like, I'm not scared of competition. It's great. It's what you want. The recruitment of Sam was, hey, come in here and compete. Well, where else are you going to come in here and compete? And I told them both, I was going to take an older kid. And then when Jaden said he wasn't scared of competition, and Sam was close to not being scared of competition, and he hopped in before that moment, I'm like, wow, I have two freshmen who are both really talented players who aren't scared to compete versus one another. Man, how often do you get that? How often do you get two top 15 players in the country at their position not scared to compete? I said, I don't need a senior. We'll take these two guys and I'll ride or die.
Hode?
Kenny, I know that you made a really concerted effort to increase the NIL purse that ASU has. Now looking back at signing day and the NIL funds that you had, how pleased are you in both attracting new players with the NIL that you had, as well as retaining the players that you wanted to retain?
Yeah, obviously NIL cannot be used to attract prospects or lure prospects to your school. So for us, it's just more that the guys understand that there is NIL here, there is support here, that our players on our roster do get paid now way more than they did last year, which is fun, which is awesome, which is why we've got to retain a lot of guys. And we haven't had guys, that I've signed really leave here. So I think being able to show them and explain that the fortunes are changing here is unbelievable. And it's a testament to the Valley. It's a testament to the people that love this place, who put hard work into it. And I just can't thank all those people enough, because it's changing the game.
So taking our last couple of questions, Brad?
Kenny, going through the partial cycle last year, what kind of lessons were you able to take away that apply to, now that you had a chance to go through this kind of first full cycle?
Don't reach. But I mean, part of that last year was we didn't have enough humans on our team. So we had to oh, you're good enough. Okay. Let's do everything we can to get you. Whereas this year it was much more, no, we're filling a little bit more needs. Even though we had to sign a lot of guys, which is part of just taking over the program and where we were at a year ago today, we still could be way more selective. So I would say don't reach and patience were the two things. And I think based off how we recruited kids last year, based off our high school class this year, based off the retention of the kids that we signed last year and transfers last year allowed us to be a little more patient and a little more, specific with what we were trying to get.
Jacob?
Hey, Kenny, you kind of talked about the relationship building with all the players, and just kind of how important is that to continue those relationships with kids who maybe go to different schools, because you never know with kind of the movement today how they might pan out in a few years.
100%. I mean, I've recruited just at the quarterback position, 10 quarterbacks a year. I signed hopefully one. Am I just going to say, screw these other 9 kids that I've talked to for 2 years? Like, that's not, no, I build a relationship. I learn about them. I learn about their family. And, I root for them. And if they ever have a question about a coach or how I can help them, they know that I can help them. I mean, there were 2 kids this year who called me and, we weren't taking a 24. It was known. I told them, I said, based off our situation, I promised some people that I'm not going to take a kid in the 24 class. And those kids called me, and I kind of helped them navigate some rocky situations that is recruiting in college football. They told me this and they're doing this. They promised me this and then this happened, and just explain to them the cold hard truth of this deal. So I think the relationships are key, and the relationships now more than ever come back to help you when those kids go in the portal, because they know, man, this dude trusted me, even though I couldn't play for this guy and I didn't choose to go to his school, he still helped me. Like, there's a level of trust and respect there that hopefully, we'll reap what we sow here in the next year, 2 years, 3 years.
Last question, Jordan.
Coach, as we've seen this 2-time transfer rule get kind of decided, or in the courts and that sort of thing, how do you think that would change college sports? And if this decision maintains, do you see Xavier and Jake, you trying to get them another year of eligibility or anything like that, since they did have to sit out and now the decision is evolving?
I mean, I think for both of those guys, it depends, if they want to be 25 playing college. I mean, it's really a personal decision. Is if they want to come back, we'll definitely try to do what we can for a, 2 or an extension. I mean, both those guys have multiple years left. So if we wanted to get a clock extension for them, I'm sure that we could. But they're going to have to make a decision. They have 2 years to really establish themselves. I think both those guys can be NFL players. So I think they have 2 years to establish themselves as NFL players and then move on. And if they don't, and they're not ready yet, do they want to come back to college, or are they ready to move on with their life? So I think that's a decision they're going to have to make, in 2 years from now. And hopefully they don't have to make it. Hopefully they're both Sunday players by then. And I believe they both can be. I think they're both special players. That's why we took them last year, knowing they probably couldn't help us this year, is because we knew we weren't building everything for last year. We were building for the future. And even though we took a hit not having 2 of our better players play for us, now I have a smile on my face when I see them, because I'm like, they actually get to play for us, and we actually get to see Jake Smith get tackled by somebody, and that fired me up. And I get to see Xavier, who led our team in interceptions last spring, play safety and get turnovers. And those are 2 exciting things.
If that rule holds, how does that affect roster construction and how you approach that?
If that rule holds, it's fine. It just goes back to the relationships and the honesty. It goes back to there is no signing day. Like, there's a day that you pick to go to your first school, but there's no signing day, or every year is just a new spot. And the interesting dynamic right now in college athletics is there's teams, even right now, that have, come summer, will have 97 guys, 95 guys on scholarship right now. Well, that means 10 people have to leave. Well, what if those 10 people don't want to leave? What happens? And that's the dynamic we're at in college football right now, is the more freedom the portal actually creates more pressure for these kids to leave. And it's somewhat a negative, because it forces teams to push out players they don't think are going to play for them. And those players aren't probably going to play on Sundays to begin with. So you're pushing and hurting the academics of kids that probably won't have a profession in this anyways, which is somewhat sad. But that's the nature of the rules that we're creating, is you have to oversign. you have to bank on kids leaving. But what happens if kids don't want to leave? And now you're at 93 scholarships come the start of summer. What happens? You have to get back down to 85. And that's when what is that saying? The rubber meets the road. Luckily for us, we're not at that point. We're always going to stay at the 85 no matter what, because that's just not how I believe in treating people. But there's a lot of places that do. And it's a rough world right now.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Coach. Happy holidays.
Appreciate it. Go Devils.